Okay, so that was breaking down a goal using time. Okay. The other side of that is breaking down a goal using the process. Hey there. My name is Corinne O'Flynn, and you're listening to the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I am a USA Today bestselling author, nonprofit executive, and organizing nerd with over 20 years experience running my own small businesses. I teach entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and small business owners like you how to organize your business, find more time, and deepen your alignment practice to experience more calm and confidence every single day. If you're looking for that intersection between practical business advice and spiritual goodness, then you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome to the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Corinne O'Flynn, and this is episode 5. This week on the podcast, I want to talk about the way that you approach goal planning and time management, because I believe that these things have a direct impact on our state of mind, our well-being, and ultimately our success. So I'm not going to teach you how to scale your business, right, and double your earnings. That's not what I'm about. What I'm about is creating core functions that form the foundation of your business, and having an organized goal and time management practice is absolutely key to getting to the place where you can scale your business and double your income. I learned recently during my research for this episode some facts and figures that were kind of mind-blowing about organizing with businesses. 20% of small businesses fail in the first year, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. 20%. And at the 3-year mark, that number is 30%. And at the 5-year mark, it's 50%. 50% of small businesses fail at 5 years. By the 10-year mark, that's 66% of businesses fail. So that means that only 34% of small businesses are still around to celebrate their 10-year anniversary. However, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the total number of new small business applications filed last year was 4.3 million. That's incredible. So what does that tell you? It tells you that small businesses are not going away. People are continuing to try to launch new businesses every single day. 4.3 million last year. So how is it that so many businesses fail? 83% of small business owners believe that an organized office is vital to their business success. This is according to an Office Depot Small Business Index. 63% of small business owners believe that their office organization correlates to their business's profitability. And 74% of small business owners say that they could not operate their business without any organizational tools. So when I look at those stats and the staggering number of businesses that fail, I can't help but wonder how many of those failures were the result of an overwhelmed, burned out, and maxed out female entrepreneur. I'm willing to bet that that is a non-zero number. And at the same time, it isn't a surprise, right? I mean, there are so many facets to being an entrepreneur. And then add to that being a woman entrepreneur. We wear all the hats in our business, right? And we wear most of the hats at home, and no shade to the men. Like even my own, I have a house full of them. Everybody does their part. And yet there's still a lot more that I do because I'm the mom, and those traditional roles die hard, right? So with all the information out there that is required to run your business and market your business and serve your customers and grow your business and keep everything current and on top of your personal life, it's a lot. And the numbers that I gave you a moment ago, 20% of businesses failing in the first year, 66% gone by the 10-year mark, and yet 4.3 million new applications for businesses every single year. They talk about the value of an organized office. And it It mirrors that sentiment. We need an organized practice in order to maintain our business, or at least to give the best shot to the business, right? With the right organizing tools, you can make it easier to handle the things that need doing and also live your life away from your business. Even when you love your business and enjoy your work, just like I do, right? We aren't meant to be on the job all the time. And I believe with my whole soul that an organized entrepreneur is a calm entrepreneur. This person has one more check in the success column that can translate to longevity in business, right? And that's what we all want. We didn't just decide that we were going to get into business and then say, oh, well, nope, throw in the towel. No, that it happens. It's a cascade effect of a lot of different things. But as the statistics say, like being organized is a vital part of that. So that's something that I would like to give to the world. Like I believe that that's a skill that I have that I can share. And it's absolutely something that is teachable. I have said another mantra of mine is organizing is not a personality trait, right? It's a skill. And that means it can be taught. So before we get into the strategies that I want to share with you, I want to say a word about mindset. And it's one of those things that we hear all the time. And I dedicated an entire episode just to the 5 mindsets, or 5 of the mindsets that I think that you need for success. But there's a reason why I'm consistently talking about mindset. It's because it really matters, like really matters. Your identity is the story that you tell yourself about yourself. And this is both a reason for caution and a cause for celebration. The caution is because negative self-talk is linked directly with a lack of confidence and a lack of drive, stagnation, and a lack of growth. If you tell yourself that something is impossible or too complicated or that it isn't worth your time, well, guess what? That's your fixed mindset reality. Your mind will keep that the truth. So the way you talk to yourself about yourself matters. And if you tell yourself that you're scattered and stressed and disorganized, then that's what you're going to believe, which means it's also exactly the way that you're going to live. So flip it. Adopt a growth mindset. Turn that around. What if you believe that you can do anything you set your mind to and that you can solve any of the problems that come your way and that you can always learn more? You can believe that you may have been scattered and disorganized in the past, but that doesn't mean that's who you are. Okay? So your mind will help you move the needle in the direction until your reality reflects that truth. And of course, it isn't magical thinking, right? That's not what we're doing here. Meaningful action is always required, but the proper mindset coupled with meaningful action, well, that's the recipe, right? That's where the success happens. And isn't that exciting? Like my whole body gets buzzing because it means that you're in control. We are in control. You are the one who can shift your life and your business into new modes and new practices simply by shifting your thoughts. And one of the fastest ways to change your thoughts is to rack up some wins. Success breeds success, and competencies build confidence. Learning new ways to get and stay organized in your business is going to take you far. And knowing that your business is organized frees you from worry and doubt and stressing over things so that you can face each day of your life and your work with relaxed confidence and calm, right? So say goodbye to feeling cluttered and stressed and disorganized and rushed and lost and frustrated and tense and exhausted, right? And if you do feel these things, that doesn't make you wrong. And it doesn't make you bad at business. It simply means that you need new habits and new tools. And that's why you're here, right? When you have those tools in place and you have that information to get you into those new workflows, you become more relaxed, more efficient, more confident, more organized, and more empowered, right? And the only thing that is required of you in order to make that leap is an open mind, some patience, some grace, some room for imperfection, self-care, diligence, a sense of humor, rest, resilience, trusting yourself, desire, and gratitude. That's really all that it is. So that was like the long way around to the topic of the day. My apologies for the mindset lesson again, but I, I, truly, I don't know that it could be overstated. I'm going to repeat myself many times, I think, over the course of podcasting. And I'm okay with that because I think that it's important. So today's podcast is about goals and time management. And when we talk about goals, right, for your business and for your life, but let's focus on for your business. Like, what do you want? What do you want for your business? And when we hear that question, most people answer the big long-term goal. Like, I want to have like, a 10-figure business and I want to be able to do these things. And that's wonderful. Like, we should absolutely have those things to aim for. But, we need to bring that back down as well, because we can't segment out a workflow for, I want to be a 10-figure business. What is your business going to be doing in 5 years? What is your 5-year goal? What is your 3-year goal? What is your 1-year goal, 6-month goal, next quarter, next month, right? Can you picture it? Why do you want to picture this, right? A successful entrepreneur is always thinking ahead, right? And the way that we think ahead is in our business is using goals. So you have to plot out a plan in order to get your goals organized, right? It isn't enough to have a goal without a plan. Operating without goals is like getting in your car and driving aimlessly, right? You need a direction, and you're never going to get there without a goal in mind, right? Goals can be anything. It can be earnings. It can be sales. It can be customer growth. It can be a number of people that you have brought across to their own achievements. If you're in coaching, it could be a marketing goal. A goal can be one thing or it can be many things, but you can't get there without identifying where there is, right? You have to identify what you're aiming for. So is it even possible to talk about goals without mentioning the SMART goal framework? Now, this is a concept that's been around since 1981. And I checked, I actually went and found there was a study, I don't know if it was a study, it was a white paper written by G.T. Doran in 1981. And it was called There's a Smart Way to Write Management's Goals and Objectives, right? And it was it was a 2-page article in this magazine called The Management Review, Volume 70, Issue 11. I can't believe I even found it, but it was a 2-page thing that talked about what makes a goal a SMART goal. And I know that like my kids have heard about this, so it's not like it's new, but I think it's interesting that something that was created in 1981 that was written as a business article has had such staying power, right? It says something. And another thing that's interesting about it is that the SMART goal is, SMART, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. When I first heard of these in the world, the A was actionable, right? But when I found the article, it was actually assignable was the A. And that makes sense because in corporate America, as a manager, when you have things that are goals, it's things that you're going to delegate, right? So it has to be something that you can actually assign to somebody else. And that was the original A, but we don't need to be purists. So actionable works. Accessible is another one, or achievable, has to be realistic. All those things. So anyway, this is really exciting to me because the fact that this thing has been around for this many years means that we don't have to waste time and energy trying to reinvent the goal wheel, right? This exists. It works. It's something that we can just adopt without adding to our workflow, right? So we want to move forward. We want to move forward efficiently and quickly. And so we're going to use the tools that give us the results. And to that end, let's touch on SMART goals. So S, what makes a SMART goal smart? S is specific, right? When you go to a restaurant, you don't tell the waiter, I'm hungry. That's not going to get you anywhere, right? You tell the waiter exactly what you want. And then when the food arrives, you know it's right because you set the expectation up front, right? That makes perfect sense. Well, in a perfect world, the food is right? The M in the SMART goal is measurable. How are you going to know when you've reached your goal, right? You have to identify the metric or the metrics that you're going to be tracking so that you know when you've met the goal. So if it's a habit goal, you have to do it every single day until you get to a certain day. And then you say, yes, I have a streak of, if it's a month of working out, you have 30 days of working out. or if it's a financial goal, whatever the goal is, you need to be able to measure it, right? So measurable goal. If your goal is very, very large, can you build in incremental milestones to help stay on track? Because let's say, for example, I hesitate to use money as a goal because I feel like even in sales, you still don't actually control the money goal. And my husband is in sales, and we've talked about this over the years. I'm like, I can't ever be a salesperson. I can't carry a number. The stress of that is just so not me. And, I sell books, like I'm an author, and I sell coaching. The money is secondary to the goal. The goal is for my coaching, it's impact. I want to impact X number of people. I want to bring X number of people into my programs. If I'm able to achieve those goals, that will have a financial impact, but that's not something that I measure. It's not the thing that drives me. It's not the thing the money is secondary. So for me, a measurable goal would be X number of people brought into my programs, or maybe it's growing my brand new podcast, right? This is episode 5. I want to grow my podcast. I want to make sure that I get more listens each time. So how am I going to do that? I can use marketing to try, you know, so those are the things that make a goal measurable. And then again, if your goal is huge, you need to identify milestones that'll help you know in the shorter term whether or not you're staying on track. So the A is assignable for the purists out there. Like, who's going to do this task? For most of us in entrepreneur land, it's us, right? So that means that all the goals that we set are on us to achieve. But as you scale and take on new team members, you'll begin delegating tasks, and maybe assignable does become part of how you define a task, because it has to be something that you can give to somebody else to do. So that's, a debate for another day. The other thing that people use for A is actionable. Is this goal something that you can actually do, as opposed to something that you can observe, for example? So it's just one more thing to think about when you're identifying what is and is not a task for your goals. Is your goal realistic, right? Now, this is something that comes up a lot. And it was something that I saw online today. A friend of mine posted, we all want, to be at our goal. We all want to have already achieved the financial goal. We already want to have achieved the credential, or the production of a product, or whatever that is. One of those things could be, but something that I run into often. Sorry, I'm talking in circles here. Is building a newsletter list. Like, every entrepreneur needs to have a newsletter list. You have to. And I do a lot of promotions in Authorland with other authors, and very frequently, one of the things that we do as authors is, like, we borrow each other's audiences. And so my author friend will share my book with their author list, with their email list. And in exchange, I will share their book with my list. But there are times where two people come together and we discover that, oh my gosh, your list is 3 times the size of mine. I can't give you the same impact. And most of the time, the answer is, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, your readers are not my readers. This is new people. Let's do it. So you have to make sure that when you talk about a goal being realistic, it's got to be realistic for you. So if you're making $1,000 a month in your business and your goal is to make $1 million a month, well, that's not a realistic goal. It's a realistic goal maybe in the longer term, but in the shorter term, maybe next month it's 2,000, maybe the next month it's 3,000. Or if you're selling units of things and you sell, I don't know, 100 a week, and you want to increase that, you can't go from 100 to 1 million sold overnight. It's just not realistic. So you have to temper reality and give yourself a reality check with your goal. Is it actually possible to get to where you want in the time allotted? Can you break that goal down into monthly, weekly, daily to see if it's realistic? An unrealistic goal is not just unhelpful. It's actually self-sabotage, right? But the point isn't to aim low. You actually want to stretch, right? You have to set yourself to stretch and achieve the success. the goals need to be out of your reach right now. Because if you're not growing, you're shrinking, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. You want your business to continue to grow and you want to continue to grow as a person. So your goals need to be beyond your reach, but not beyond your grasp, right? It has to be something that you can get to. And then the final thing about a SMART goal is the T, it's time bound. So it's been said that a goal without a deadline is just a dream. So in order to be able to claim a goal as completed, there has to be a time limit in place so that you know where to focus your energy. You know where to set the milestones. It's how you're going to track. So without a deadline in place, you risk letting things slide down the calendar until they stop being goals at all, right? How many times have you had like a list of things that you wanted to achieve, but you didn't assign a timeline to? This is something that I did for years and years. Like, oh yeah, I want to write a book someday. I want to write a book someday. I want to write a book someday. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book this year. By the end of this year, I'm going to have my book published. Okay. So if that happens, what does that require? Well, I'm going to have to outline my book, and then I'm going to have to, my book's going to be X number of words. So that means I have to write this many words a day or this many words a week because I'm terrible at writing every day. So I have weekly word count goals, so you have to make it work for yourself. So Michelle Obama said, one of the lessons that I grew up with was to always stay true to yourself and never let what somebody else says distract you from your goals. I think that the reason why I have this written here is because when we talk about goals, and you're listening to me talk about my goals in the examples that I'm sharing, because that's the way I can bring context to the things that I'm discussing with you today. But, you need to make sure that you're extrapolating the actionable pieces of this knowledge and then applying it to what you're working on. You're not working on what I'm working on. I'm not working on what you're working on. And you're not working on what your accountability buddies are working on. Everybody is doing their own thing. So you need to make sure that you keep yourself accountable to yourself. So how do you brainstorm a goal? How do you do that? So for me, I have a list when I do this exercise. And some people use Post-it notes. I use a whiteboard. And what you're doing here is we're going to break down a goal using time. Okay. So we start with the macro and we work it all the way down to the micro. And the difficult thing here is that it's kind of abstract because the lifetime goals or the long distance goals, whether that be lifetime goals or a 10-year goal or a 5-year goal or a 1-year goal, the 1-year goal is actually easier to see. But in my example, I'm talking about a lifetime goal because that is something that we can bring all the way back down for the purposes of illustrating how this works. So let's say that we're in a product-based business, like we have an Etsy shop, for example, and we make things that people buy. This also works for, somebody like me who's an author or really anybody. But for the purposes of this example, let's say that we have an online shop and we're selling something that we make. And one of the goals, we have many goals that we've outlined, but we're going to take one goal and we're going to break it down. My goal that I've chosen is to fully fund my retirement. Okay. So this is easy to identify as a good goal because it is a SMART goal, because we know that it's specific, right? It's measurable, it's actionable or assignable, depending on which A you go for. It's realistic and it's time bound. And once we identify that what this goal means in actual dollars, let's say that we determine that one part of the plan to get us where we want to be requires that we launch 2 new product lines every single year between now and the end of time, right? Until we retire. We don't have to identify what all of those product lines are for every year today. But now that we know that we need 2 per year, we can move forward, right? So let's bring that back down from lifetime to a 3-year goal. And I'm going to have an outline for this on my website that you can download. It's going to be available in the show notes, which will be found at CorinneO'Flynn.com/episode 5, which is the word episode and the digit 5, all without spaces. So that lifetime goal identified that we needed 2 product lines launched every year. So we can then jump all the way to, like, let's say a 3-year goal. In the 3-year goal associated with this line item, we now know we need 2 launches per year, which means we need 6 product lines launched for 3 years. That means that by the 3-year mark, we have 6 new product lines. We still don't have to know today what those lines are going to be, but we know how many we need. So that means that we need 2 new lines in year 1, 2 more in year 2, and 2 more in year 3 for a total of 6 by the end of that 3rd year deadline, right? Let's break that down further. Bring it closer in time. Now let's look at it for 1 year. Our 1-year goal is to launch 2 new product lines. It's easy to jump now to the detail because it's so specific. We know that it's part of our lifetime goal to launch 2 product lines, and now we know it's part of our 3-year goal. It brings us all the way back down. So at this point, we need to get granular and start thinking about real detail. If we're going to have 2 new product lines online a year from now, what do we need to do right now? Once you get to the quarter mark, right? After a year, you break it down to quarters. You're going to be able to see exactly where things need to happen. Okay, so that was breaking down a goal using time. Okay. The other side of that is breaking down a goal using the process. And what do I mean by that? So I'm going to break away from our pretend business where we're making products and opening up new product lines. And I'm going to bring it into something that I know because that's really what is important about the process. You break down a goal using time and you break down a goal using process because you have to know how much time it's going to take to do the things you need to do. So for example, in my business of writing, I know how many words I can produce in an hour, right? And when I am in my flow, I can do 1,000 words an hour of creative writing for fiction. That, it's neither here nor there about whether or not that compares to other authors. That's where I land. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but that's my average. And if I know that, and I know that I can write 1,000 words an hour, and I can write for, let's say, a max of 4 hours a day, my max production in a day is 4,000 words. If I have to write, an 80,000 word book, how many days is that going to take? Right? And how many days that takes does not mean, and I'm trying to do the math in my head and I can't. 40,000 words would be 10 days. 80,000 words would be 20 days. Okay, I'm with you. So, but that does not mean that I go to my calendar and I slate out the 1st of the month through the 20th of the month as the time it's going to take to produce a book. It's just not feasible for me. I don't write every single day, right? So if I have a 4,000 word a day goal, I can then look at my calendar and I can say, in order to produce this 80,000 word book, I need 20 production days. And I know myself well enough to know that I can't do a double production day and actually get anything else done. If I did 8,000 words in a day, I'd actually be like, brain dead for anything else. And also probably wouldn't want to work tomorrow on my book. So instead of even saying that I can extrapolate that out and batch, because in this case, I can't actually batch. I can't do a whole day of writing. It doesn't work that way. And this is the value of understanding goal setting using process. I know my process. I know what I can do in a day. I know what it takes for me to be able to write. So for an 80,000 word book, in my example, that's going to take 20 writing sessions, which is 20 days that are marked as writing days. That might take me 2 months to find days where I can do that. And that's because know thyself, right? I know how I work. I know what my writing ends up looking like. So if I were to say that, okay, 4,000 words a day, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then by the end of the first week, I don't hit 20,000 words, which I never do because I don't work that way. I'm setting myself up for failure. Like that's disheartening. And that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So breaking down a goal using time is only part of the deal. The other part of that deal is analyzing the process and understanding in your business, you know what it takes to do the work that you need to do. So if you know how you work, then you have to apply that process to the goal breakdown to see what's realistic, right? What's measurable, where in time you can make it time bound. So yes, an 80,000 word book can be done in 20 days if I have nothing else to do, right? That means I have no doctor's appointments. The kids don't need anything from me for 20 days. The dogs don't bother me. I don't wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I never get sick. Like, it's just not possible, right? So a reality check with time and with the process. And again, this is something that only you can do. Only you know your process for the things that you do in your business. And I guess that's really what I wanted to hammer home. So keep your eyes on your own paper. Don't look at what anybody else is doing, and just trust yourself enough to know how you work. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. This is Corinne signing off. And be sure to visit the show notes page for the downloads for you. It's available at corinneoflynn.com/episode 5. And that is the word episode and the digit 5 to get all the goodness there for you. And that's it. Signing off. I hope you got some good stuff out of this episode and that you'll be back for future listening. Thanks. Remember, part of being a calm entrepreneur is developing the systems, habits, and know-how that lets you know that you are the one in the driver's seat. You get to choose how you run your business, and you get to choose how you work. So you got this. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Calm Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Corinne O'Flynn, and if this episode was valuable to you, please head on over and rate and review wherever you consume your podcasts. Please subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. New episodes go out each week on Tuesdays, and I look forward to hanging with you again. This is Corinne signing off. Have an excellent day.